Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. It is the day after Inter Miami's 4-1 beat down on the road at Houston Dynamo. Saur, thank you for being with me, my host, my friend. How are you feeling today?
Looks like Inter Miami is just as good without Messi, right? Uh, we're not going to have to talk about that, which is going to be great. So I wanted to get that out of the way beforehand. I'm feeling great, man. That was a fantastic performance. We're heading into a big week with the CONCACAF Champions Cup next round coming up this week. So really positive vibes and momentum going into that game. But I had fun watching that game, probably the most fun I've had this season watching Inter Miami play. And it was without Messi. All good vibes from my end. How are you?
No, I'm feeling great. That was such a fun game, and I got not emotional, but like emotional adjacent to how good and how much quality there is on this roster.
Bawling your eyes out after that game. That's what you say.
Bawling my eyes out adjacent after that game. No, I mean, I came on and had a monologue, and for those that haven't watched the post-game reaction, I there's just so many talented players on this team that are beyond anything that Inter Miami fans should ever expect to have on this roster. Like, I know that we've become accustomed to it, and I know the standard's so high because of Lionel Messi, but even beyond Messi, who is a dream to have on an MLS team, to have some of these guys like Telasco Segovia and Tadeo Allende and all these guys is incredible. And then beyond that, watching some of our young players step up to that talent level, not just sort of pitter patter around MLS quality, but to step up and become like real studs. It's just so incredible to watch. And, you know, I mean, I remember this time 2 years ago, and Gregory got hurt and John Mota got hurt, and our team was just awful. The fact that we're here now, it's emotional adjacent.
You know what? I think that was the best monologue that you ever did. So well done on you for that. And it's important to put things into perspective. Sometimes you just take things for granted. And as football fans, success is never guaranteed. And yeah, we don't know what Inter Miami has in store for us this season, whether we win trophies or not. But it's really nice to see that this squad is coming together in a way that we haven't seen ever in Inter Miami's history. Last season was, I guess, just the trailer, man. It feels like we've taken that step up and the movie is just about to start. So hopefully we can build on from this performance. There's a long, long way to go. This is just the fourth game of the season. But all things positive, you have to appreciate what you have and put things in perspective. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, so guys, as always, I'm your host, Scotty. As I mentioned, I'm here with my co-host, Saur. Today, we're going to recap last night's victory. We're going to do the analysis breakdown. We're going to talk about the refereeing for a few minutes. And, of course, we're going to give out some awards. But let's start with some of the other things going around Inter Miami's world. We are back-to-back game days. So we haven't had a chance to just sit down and talk about some of the other aspects of Inter Miami. And there have been a couple over the last couple of days. So I think we should start with a few quick hitters from around Inter Miami's world. And the first one, quickly I'll mention because we know the story. We've talked about it a lot. But Tom Bogart today on CBS Golazzo channel was once again bringing up Neymar's name with Inter Miami. He thinks that that's the team to watch in MLS to bring him on. And again, he's as hooked into the MLS as any real beat reporter. I don't know if his sources in Inter Miami are as good as he has in most other places around the league, but his agent connections, his connections with a lot of the front offices, they seem to think that this is an Inter Miami type of deal. So that is just another signal that there's room for a player like Neymar at some point this year or next. We will see.
I think that should be illegal. Just wanted to put that out there. Honestly, it should be illegal.
Like to me, the Neymar thing should be perfectly legal, and you should have to use a DP. It's the Telasco Segovias and the Tadeo Allendes and the Alan Obondos and the Gonzalo Lujans. Those guys, that probably is illegal. I don't know how they're doing this. But sort of along those lines, the roster reveal did come out a couple days ago. Jordi Alba is listed as the third DP. I thought about this a lot. As far as we can tell, he's listed as a third DP, but he is able to be bought down at some point this season. So I thought about this, and it took me a couple days to sort of realize what might be the reason for this, because if you go with the 2 and 4, you get extra allocation money that I think helps and is worth it. But I'm wondering if they weren't able to move Julian Gressel and the money there prevents them from being able to go with the 2 and 4, and that they will be able to make that switch once Julian Gressel is moved off the roster. And if that is true, I definitely expect Julian Gressel to leave this, but if not in this window, certainly in the summer. And I expect Inter Miami to convert to Jordi Alba off of DP status this summer if they can go out and land a big fish, which I do think they will. But that is the news. It is something that people speculated. He is listed as a DP, but similar to how Leo Campana was a DP last year, it's not because he was just wildly expensive. It's just an accounting numbers thing to make the roster fit. That's why Campana was a third DB. My suspicion is that's why Jordi Alba is a DP in this moment, and everyone around Inter Miami seems to think the same. So, roster reveal. Anything else particularly interesting? I mean, a lot of guys got off their international roster slots, so that was good. But I mean, it was pretty much as expected.
Yeah, more or less. And that Alba situation, I think you're right. We don't want to read too much into it. It's mostly an accounting thing and to make the roster fit and work. And that's fine. Honestly, at this point, there's absolutely no complaints about how Inter Miami has constructed the roster in the offseason. So far, so good. We'll see once the summer comes, and we may need to add a few reinforcements given how many competitions we're going to be competing in. It'll be interesting to see what maneuvers and what levers they pull. But so far, it's fine. No complaints.
I want you to know the word levers when it comes to soccer, and especially in a conversation that involves Barcelona players, just triggers me because that was an awful thing that was happening. Okay, moving on. Noah Allen.
They figured everything, every single lever they could. Anyways, this is not a Barcelona fan channel. We stick to Inter Miami.
It's not. Okay, well, I'm moving on. Noah Allen has filed a one-time switch to Greece. He was a longtime member of the U.S. national team, youth national team setup through the age groups, U.S. U16, 17, 18, 19. I mean, he was a sort of a locked-in guy for a lot of those. And then the breakout at Inter Miami was interrupted by the incoming of Messi, but really Jordi Alba. So he wasn't able to lock down a starting spot. And guys like Caleb Wiley, for example, at Atlanta United, and some others were able to, I think, get more MLS minutes and then more attention from the national team program. Noah Allen now having his breakout moment just in time for him to make the one-time switch to Greece. Greece is not in the U21 Euros this year, which I thought might be an interesting reason to do this if he was about to get called up to the under-21 championships in Europe. But they didn't qualify. So I don't really know about the timing, but maybe he's going to get called up to the Greek national team for the March international window. I don't know if he's at that level yet, but I don't know much about the Greek pool. And either way, congratulations to Noah. I hope you have a long, successful international career. I'm a USMNT fan, so I'm sorry I won't be with the USMNT, but congratulations on the move, and I hope it works out incredibly well for you, and you have lots of success with Greece.
Yeah, a little bit surprising. I wish he'd been a little bit more patient to see how this U.S. men's national team develops under Mauricio Pochettino, but looks like he's made his decision, and Greece has won a major tournament more than I think the U.S. men's national team has. I don't know what their current setup is.
No.
But yeah, they won the Euros in 2004.
Yeah, they won the Euros once, and the U.S. wins the continental championship like every other year.
But it is the Euros. Anyways, so I don't know what the Greek setup is right now.
Once
and I'm honestly
like 15 times.
I honestly don't know what the situation there is. But yeah, as you said, wish him the luck, and I'm sure he's going to shine, man. He's on the trajectory upwards, and it's only going to get better for him now. So good luck to him, and can't wait for him to play in the Euros one day, perhaps.
Yeah. To that point, listen, this is a game recap episode, and we're going to get to the game in a few minutes, but there's probably a more interesting conversation to be had about Noah Allen's long-term ambitions. And I think this is an interesting sign in what those might be. Clearly, he's a guy that wants to, start making moves. And so congratulations to him. We don't have time for that conversation now. Maybe we'll talk about Noah Allen later on, but in reference to this game last night. So those are the three things I wanted to talk about before we get into the game. But I thought we could switch it up today. And Saur, I hope you're willing to go along with this. Normally, we would do the game recap right now, run through what happened, and then talk about each moment individually and the tactics before we got onto awards. But I think this episode needs to have a conversation about the refereeing, and the game itself was so positive that I want to just have this conversation briefly about the referees and then move on to the very positive game. So do you mind if we just do that first?
No, absolutely. I think it's an important talking point, and we don't want to put a tamper on the game itself. So get this out of the way, and then we can discuss the positives.
Okay. Inter Miami had a player in the 60th minute with a yellow card drag a player from behind and could have been given a second yellow card. That was Yannick Bright. And he wasn't given a second yellow card. We saw something similar last week with Tanasiewicz with NYCFC, although I definitely think the circumstances were different because Inter Miami already had a red card. But they don't get a red card. So that is a huge call to Inter Miami goes in its favor. And so I want to just put that out there, even though there was some inconsistent refereeing in this game. It wasn't like Inter Miami was getting screwed all game long. But the last 3 minutes of this game were particularly bad. There was a couple of videos going around social media, and so I hope you guys have had a chance to see them, and then you'll know what we're talking about. But in the 94th minute, the game is over. It's 4-1. Jordi Alba has the ball, takes a little bit of a heavy touch, and one of the Houston Dynamo players grabs him, pushes off of him, and slams on his foot. And half a second later, Kramaski sees this and runs in, kind of shoulders him as he takes the ball away. He gets, with a rough foul, a yellow card. And the referee, Joe Dickerson, looks at him. Kramaski looks back. Why didn't you call that on Jordi Alba? And he mouths to him. You can see it on the screen. He probably says to him, that's not a foul, even though it clearly was, as you can see on replay. So the referee didn't see the foul. But everything that ensued happens because the referee doesn't see the foul. And so I think we have to start this whole conversation off by saying these moments started by a missed call by the referee. Kramaski gets a yellow card in retaliation with a less physical hit. Let's be clear. The stomp on the foot is a much more severe infraction. 20 seconds later, Jordi Alba stands up and he kind of trips this player, number 27, Kowalczyk, from behind. Again, significantly less of an infraction than what Kowalczyk did to him by slamming on his foot. And that's the type of retaliation that only happens when you don't get a card, when you don't get a call, when you don't even get a foul on the play. Jordi Alba is going to run over and he's going to get a little bit of his give a little bit of his comeuppance to Kowalczyk, and he gets a yellow card. Again, it's a cynical foul from behind, but it's only caused because the referee doesn't react responsibly to the original foul, which again is a very nasty stomp on the foot by Kowalczyk. And then this is all in the 94th into the 95th minute. The game ends after 5 minutes of stoppage time, and there's some conversations that lead to the Ian Frey tussle. That was not much of a tussle, and Ian Frey ends up getting a red card, which again, terrible red. I mean, that isolated was awful, but the fact that it stems from this continuing conversation that goes back to a missed call by the referee that, again, probably should have been a red card on a VAR review on Kowalczyk in the 94th minute. That's 2 yellow cards and a red card for Inter Miami in the span of about 2.5 minutes of real life time, all against Inter Miami. And it all started because the referee missed what I think is a clear red on Kowalczyk. So terrible 3-minute performance, and I think Inter Miami should justifiably feel pretty angry about the cards and the result of how that all ended up.
Yeah, I want to start with saying that when the game started, there were a couple of calls against Houston that may have been light at the start of the game, and it was a bit of a stop-start refereeing decisions that didn't let the game flow, especially in the first 5 minutes of the game itself. That, I think, sort of set the mood for the game. But then up until the 60th minute, there wasn't any instance where I was like, the referee is taking control of the game negatively or being too influential, and I was okay with it. There weren't any obvious points during that time when I thought that the referee is being too harsh or not judging the game properly. And I didn't even notice that Jordi Alba incident that happened on the sidelines. I may have missed it while I was watching the game live, and I only watched it after the fact on social media. And that incident where Kowalski basically tries to push him, grabs him, stamps on his foot, and then pushes him on the ground to get the ball. That's a blatant red, in my opinion. Yes, you can debate that, okay, could have been yellow. It wasn't that much of a harsh foul. He just stamped on his foot. It was deliberate. So for me, I think that's 70-30 leaning towards a red card, to the point that VAR should have intervened and actually made the referee go to the monitor and reevaluate that, because it was bad. It was really bad and could have injured Jordi Alba. And again, it was intentional. Absolutely horrible call from the referee. Someone in the chat yesterday mentioned that Inter Miami players were really immature getting those yellow cards towards the end of the game. I can understand their frustration. When that happens during the game, it's awful to be to partake in that, and especially seeing the referee not do anything about it for their competitors at the end of the day. And I can totally imagine Jordi Alba being like, you know what, if the referee's not having my back, I'm going to go and make sure that the other player realizes who he's dealing with. And he went in with a cynical foul, as you said. Should have been a yellow. It wasn't warranted, but it just stems from all those incidents that the referee overlooked. And it was it was very, very harsh of the referee to just completely overlook what Kowalski did, award Benjamin Kramaski the yellow, award Jordi Alba the yellow, and then let's not even talk about that Ian Frey incident. I don't know what the referee was thinking there. I'm not sure. We haven't received the audio of that yet, but it doesn't even look like Ian Frey said anything. He wanted to get away and go into the locker room. I think it was Dorsey perhaps who was trying to hold him back, and then he pushed him, and the referee justified saying that he caught the neck. He never caught the neck at any point during that entire incident.
He does catch the neck. There's a different angle where you can see a split second. But again, it is him getting his jersey pulled and him just pushing off of a player holding his. Like, it was clearly instigated by the Houston player.
Yeah.
And again, all of this happens within like 2.5 minutes. And part of the reason I think that's really frustrating is, like, you don't give Yannick Bright that second yellow because he has a first yellow. You're understanding as a referee the nature of the game. You don't want to dramatically change the game. And so even if he hadn't have given a red card to that player, and VAR said, like, it's the 94th minute, it's a 4-1 game, like, we can overlook this. He doesn't need to be suspended. I understand referees have some discretion in that, but the fact that you come out and in every way you punish Inter Miami for everything that happens afterwards, I thought was, tough, a poor 3 minutes. And listen, the reason I'm bringing this up is not to complain about Joe Dickerson, because he's a referee, he's a human, he's going to make mistakes, he's going to miss things. There were some other calls throughout the game that I thought were inconsistent, to put it that way. But I just think the MLS has to relieve the red card so that what happened doesn't affect what happens moving forward, when I think Inter Miami really got the short end of the stick in that one.
No, and I really liked Javier Mascherano's reaction to the red card. He was fuming and he was absolutely boiling, some seething remarks against the MLS and the referee. And that's what you want. You want your coach to back your players. If Ian Frey had actually done something that was outright violent conduct, then you could have been like, yes, he should have handled it better, should have been more mature about it. But I love the fact that Mascherano has come out to say there was absolutely nothing in that incident and it was the referee's fault. We'll see what comes from that. I know Hash in the chat mentions that Mascherano might get suspended because of his comments against the referee. But honestly, I like the fact that the coach is backing his player and shows that there's a vote of confidence in the team towards what Ian Frey allegedly did. So overall, a really poor refereeing performance, especially towards the end of the game, and a damper on an otherwise really good game from Inter Miami. And yeah, some people might say that Inter Miami was immature conceding some of those yellow cards. I don't think so. I think it was, you don't want to say it's justified by any means because you don't want to promote that kind of behavior, but you can understand why the players did it. It can be very frustrating when calls go against you, especially one that possibly could have really injured Jordi Alba. Wasn't great to see. Kowalski should have been punished there, but it is what it is. I'm glad we just came away with that 4-1 scoreline.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I need to say about the referee. If the red card gets removed, or there's no suspension for Ian Frey, then I will feel justified in all this, and that this is what happens when it's human beings trying to deal with it. But they need to remove that red card, I think, without question. Okay, that's all I want to say about the referees. Generally, I hate dealing with the referees, but just because that led to a red card that can affect Inter Miami moving forward, I thought we had to talk about it. Anything else, or can we get to the game?
No, I think it's time to get to the game.
Okay, Inter Miami travels to Houston. It's their first chance to make up for an U.S. Open Cup final defeat in 2023. That game still stings. It was Inter Miami's first and to this point last opportunity to get that trophy. Lionel Messi didn't play in that game, and he returns the favor by no showing in Houston. But you know who didn't no show? Inter Miami, and they get it started quickly. 6th minute, Obafemi Awadesu with an ill-advised pass to Jack McGlynn, deflected by Benjamin Kramaski to Luis Suárez, who pops it centrally to Telasco Segovia with a very nice, easy finish in the near post past Andrew Turbel. 1-0 quickly for Inter Miami, who says, this is no game for you to possess the ball in the back. We're coming after you, and we're going to win the ball high, create opportunities going forward. And another example, just a few minutes later in the first half, Inter Miami able to create another opportunity. Telasco Segovia to Luis Suárez. Suárez puts it just wide, but you can tell Inter Miami is coming after this game. Next goal comes in the 37th minute. Telasco Segovia with an excellent exit ball to relieve some pressure to Luis Suárez as the team hits in transition. Suárez pops it over the top to Tadeo Allende, who takes 2 steps to his left and then fires with his off foot a shot into the opposite top corner. What a beauty. Inter Miami blessed with a couple of really impressive goals so far this season. And then Inter Miami puts the knife in the heart in stoppage time in the first half. 2 minutes into stoppage time, Segovia and Yannick Bright sniff out a turnover, create the turnover. Yannick Bright gets started on the fast break, delivers it to his left to Luis Suárez, who pushes it back centrally to Segovia, who hits the spin and hits the win, putting in the bottom corner to give Miami a commanding 3-0 halftime lead. And then they made it 4. 79th minute, second half. Luis Suárez showing his class and his body control, undressing 2 young defenders with just a little bit of hesitation to sneak past them, and puts it into the back of the net. 4-0 Inter Miami. Saddest note of the day, 85th minute, Nico Ladero for Houston slips out of the midfield unguarded, receives a through ball in the box, and is able to put the ball past Scotty, but the game was already over. 4-1 Inter Miami. Goal scorers Segovia, Allende, Segovia, and Suárez. Inter Miami wins 4-1. I feel some redemption, and this team is off to an incredible start. And by the way, they look amazing.
I would like to commend you on your use of the word undressed. That was very creative, and I really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Somebody get this man an apron, because he's been cooking with these recaps recently. Well done, Scotty. Proud of you. What can we say, man? Set the pace from the get-go. It was very obvious that this team wanted to press high. It wanted to make use of its physicality. Messi coming off, I think, I don't want to put it this way, but the only advantage of Messi not playing is the fact that there's a little bit more legs and energy and running in this team. And that helps a little bit when you want to press. And I think the idea was that we're going to press hard, make sure that this Houston team is unable to actually play their football, make them uncomfortable, allow them to make those turnovers in dangerous spots, and then just hit them in transition, because we have got some really good transition players in this team now with Segovia, Allende, Yannick Bright showing exactly what he's made of, Benjamin Kramaski, 4 or 5 really good players in that middle of the park who can run the show when you need to actually play high-paced transition football. And that's what we did for large majorities of the game. There was instances where we showed exactly how good we are in possession as well. I think this team looked the best it has all of this season, and maybe compared to last season as well, in how well they passed the ball around. There was some beautiful tiki-taka plays. I mentioned it in the reaction show that there was an instance where our friend Taylor Twellman said in the 57th minute, "What is it?"
3 times he makes a comment about how beautiful the patterns of play are. Yeah.
And it was just amazing to watch, because I think yesterday was a perfect example of what this team can do when it all comes together. Now, we need to caveat this, because I think there's going to be instances during the season where we may not be able to play this well. Our game plan might not work this well. We may be a little bit off the ball. Passing might be off. Some things might not fall into place. But yesterday was the perfect example of what this team can do when every single player is on the same page, every single player is sharp and every single player knows exactly what they're supposed to do. It all fell into place yesterday for Javier Mascherano, and the result was beautiful football to the point that we dominated. There was not a single instant during the game where I thought we were getting run over by the Houston midfield, who, by the way, is started to be a really good midfield despite losing Hector Herrera. They had the least number, or they were amongst the teams that had the least number of goals conceded last season, only 40, and we scored 4 past them. This is a good MLS team, and we showed that how mediocre they can be when Inter Miami shows up and plays good football. Fantastic watch yesterday. We can discuss the tactics in more details, but I think overall there was a lot of positives to take away from this game, and I don't think there were any negatives as such from the player side of things.
Yeah, no, it was your responsibility to think of a heron that flew north, and I know you were struggling with that, so we'll be interested to see how you come up with that one. But yeah, I think we can sort of break down what they were trying to do early as we get into this first big moment of the game. They were it was similar to what we saw last summer from Tata Martino when Lionel Messi was gone. They came out, they pressed high for 15, 20 minutes. They created a lead, and then they were able to hit in transition. We talked about in the pregame show, Houston likes to hold possession. And when you're Inter Miami, if you can press that into a few turnovers and you catch them too spread out, you can hit quickly. And with the quality we have, we were able to do that and create offense. That's exactly what happened 5 minutes into this game. They have, and by the way, if you rewatch it, it's a terrible decision to make this pass from Obafemi Awadesu.
But also,
to
I
Jack
think
McGlynn.
the shape in which we were set up with Suárez, Kremaski, and Segovia, all three forming that bit of a block and making sure that they don't have an easy route out to play the ball was exactly why we enjoyed yesterday's game, because our setup was really, really good. And you mentioned that under Tata Martino, we did that when Messi and Suarez weren't there. But I think the one notable difference is that our entire team pushed up this time around. It wasn't just the front three or the midfield and the front three, our back line as well. And now that we have athletic center backs, in the midfield too. And now that we have athletic center backs, athletic midfielders, we're able to do that even more. And it just looked a lot better, and the shape was definitely set up to make sure that Houston finds it as difficult as possible to play out from the back and play through the middle. Really good to see how we set up for this, and the tactics were on point.
No, and the idea was not to press high the entire game. It was to press high, create a few moments of magic that created offense. And then listen, if they wanted to kick the ball around the back, which is what happened most of the second half, Inter Miami was happy to let them do that because they knew they were fine in the back. But like you said, tremendous finish by Telasco Segovia.
Yeah.
Great ball.
I thought he'd go far end, but he went the near post, which was a good
near
finish.
Post. It was a really nice tap over by Luis Suárez, and Kremaski with a really athletic defensive play to start that whole thing off by creating the turnover. So all around, really well done. And then, as you said, that press, that second level, especially the midfielders Segovia and Yannick Bright, I thought especially Yannick Bright, did an incredible job of just instinctually knowing when to hit the press hard, and was able to create a number of turnovers because of it. I was really impressed with that. There was a couple moments that Suárez, I thought, really fluffed it up. The 11th minute, I mentioned
just a couple?
Segovia. Actually, it was just a couple. On the rewatch, I was really looking for all these moments that happened in my head, and I think it was like 2 or 3. And so,
I'm going to park the Suárez hate bus in the station today. I'm not going to bring it out because I don't think I have a leg to stand on there. But he had a couple of difficult moments where I was really frustrated. And I think you mentioned this, that he probably looked the worst that he had in the first 10 minutes of this game than the entire season. Actually, and then he goes in, creates those opportunities.
The real moment for me was the 26th minute, because Allende set Suárez up for an excellent chance on goal that should have been a goal. And it wasn't that he wasn't able to get to the spot, because I think that's the big thing with Suárez. He doesn't have the athleticism, and so sometimes he doesn't get to the spot. This time he got to the spot, but he didn't have the quality. He just completely missed the shot. I mean, it was a really poor attempt. And that's the thing that he's always been so good at. So that was like the first moment I was really concerned. But after that, I mean, he finishes with 3 assists and a goal. He was, I thought, excellent. We'll talk about him later. But those were like the big moments. The first one, Tadeo Allende, I thought had a really nice moment in the 33rd minute where he created his own shot, but Tarbo was able to make the save. 41st minute was the most dangerous chance for Houston of the game, of the first half at least. Griffin Dorsey gets down on that right side and puts a cross over the middle. But Aliyu, who's their U22, wasn't able to put it on target. You mentioned the pregame show that he's a guy that Houston fans are very frustrated with because he doesn't have that end product. It reminded me a lot of Emerson Rodriguez, where he's got so many fun tools, especially the pace, but just doesn't have like the ability to actually put it into production. And Ian Frey completely locked him up for most of the game. Anyways, that was it for the first half. We mentioned, well, let's talk about the Tadeo Allende goal because that was beautiful. That was incredible.
No, that was more than incredible. I don't know how he pulled that off. That was a shot and a half, reminiscent of what Matías Rojas has done for us last season, but I think a little bit better than that because I thought he missed the chance when he went a little bit further wide. I thought Suárez's ball was a little bit short, so Allende had to run and didn't necessarily have the separation from the three players who were surrounding him. And I thought the opportunity was gone because he was alone and there were three players next to him.
And he was
Houston.
pulling it wide. He was
Yeah, exactly. He was
wide.
going wider and wider. And I was like, oh, maybe he's taken it too further wide. I think Kremaski was there in the middle. But again, the three Houston players were covering him. I didn't think there was an opportunity there. And then the ball was in the back of the net before you know it. It was bang on target, so well taken, an inch here or there, and it wouldn't have gone in. Perfect. He is a goal scorer, by the way. He is a goal scorer. And
I agree.
I know you had your doubts about whether he's going to actually produce those goals and assists, but so far, so good, man. He's proved us wrong. He's really stepped up, both in terms of creation and goals. I think he has 2 goals and 2 assists or something like that. And it just feels like he's going to go further and further and further, both him and Segovia. I think Twellman mentioned it on commentary, and I hate the fact that we're commenting so much about Twellman, but he said some good things during this game that anyone who watches Inter Miami play right now would think that Segovia and Allende have been with this team for years, and they only joined 4 games ago. So this is astonishing how well they've gelled in, and it's a testament to how well Javier Mascherano has embedded these players into this squad. Looks fantastic, Allende, and a very well taken goal, potentially the goal of the match day.
Yeah, I know Luis Suárez gets credit for an assist, but I mean, so much.
I don't think that was, yeah.
And actually, I think a better play was Segovia, who had a really nice. We were under pressure. Houston was trying to come forward and put some pressure on our goal, and that was a really nice exit ball from Telasco Segovia and Yannick Bright before that to win the ball. So just a really nice all-around transition, and then a beauty to finish it off. He's got 4 goals for Inter Miami, preseason and regular season included. Yep. So, I mean, you're right. He's got some goals in him, and I think he might have a really impressive season. Moving forward to that third goal, which was the spin and win goal, Yannick Bright and Segovia combine. So what happens is Segovia kind of gets to the back of the player who's trying to receive it. And because of that, he's not quite able to get the perfect touch on it. And he's certainly not able to get a touch where he can spin and kind of get facing forward and see what's going on. And Yannick Bright really instinctually sniffs it out, comes forward, sees that the player is not going to, I don't know who it is. I believe it might be Artur, but I'm not exactly sure. Sniffs out that he's not going to be able to.
Let's just say it's Jack McGinn.
It may have been, actually. He wasn't able to sniff out Yannick Bright. Yannick Bright sees that. He makes the run, and that little bit of a touch to create separation from Segovia gives Yannick Bright the opportunity to come steal the ball away, get started on the fast break, was patient and calm, and then made the right outlet pass to Suárez. And then Segovia makes the run in behind, which I love those runs out of the midfield, in order to create an opportunity. And then, just talent and skill, was able to win the ball and get the goal. But the team play to create the opportunity, I thought was really nice. 79th minute is when Luis Suárez gets the goal. I'm sorry, I'm looking for other moments that I wanted to talk about.
Can I talk about that moment for a little bit? Because I want to walk through a point that you just mentioned. So first of all, I've said this before, and I said this in the reaction yesterday. That Telasco Segovia and Yannick Bright combination is ruthless in the middle of the park. It will give you everything. Segovia has the energy, the skills, the passing, the goal scoring. Yannick Bright has the energy, the skills, the passing, not the goal scoring, but the positioning, the interception, the strength to just push off anybody who tries and comes for him. And now he has a little bit of spatial awareness as well, where he turns into these nice little pockets. There were a couple of instances throughout this game where Yannick Bright received the ball on the half turn, and he just completely creates this space for him by turning into the right direction or using a little bit of skill to get free and creating those opportunities in front of him. Usually, we saw last season that he was fairly safe, received the ball, and then disposed it off. Now he's receiving the ball, he's turning, and he's looking for opportunities. This goal that came through, I think, was more so to do with Telasco Segovia and Yannick Bright working together and winning that ball. Yannick Bright having that penetrative run through the middle, finds a really good ball to Suárez. And then Suárez, to his credit, finds a good ball to Segovia. But Segovia got covered really quickly. So I thought the opportunity had gone. But no, he didn't give up. He just shot it through the legs of the other player or the opposition player and right into the corner of the goal. Very well taken, really well constructed. But the one thing that goal exemplified for this game was all Inter Miami players, I think, were instructed to be close to the man. You mentioned that we didn't necessarily press at all times. Absolutely correct. But we had an idea of when we want to go in and be close to the Houston players to make sure, even if we don't get the ball, just make them uncomfortable. Just don't let them pass out or find that passing outlet easily. And that, for me, the sharpness with which we were doing that, the energy and the composure with which we were closing down the spaces in the park and not allowing Houston to get out easily, I think had a huge role to play with how we succeeded in scoring 4 goals. That was, I think, the game plan. Stick to your man, get to the second balls quickly, make sure you put in that effort to just be that one step ahead of Houston. And I think the effort might be something that we don't necessarily talk about this game just because there was a lot of skill and talent on the pitch. But I think the effort was just as much responsible for getting this result. And that goal where Segovia and Yannick Bright combined was, I think, the perfect exemplification of that.
Yeah, a couple other moments to mention in that second half. There was a really nice turn by Luis Suárez in the 59th minute where he just whips around his hips and draws a yellow card on Awadesu. That's was like
the one I was talking about as well. Yeah,
really, that was really nice, worth mentioning. 67th minute, that was when Ustari has to go up and make a high save, and him and Ponce collide.
I thought we lost Ustari there. He just collapsed.
Well,
I was like, oh my goodness, what's happened there?
Ustari got hit in the head, I think, last game. And I was thinking, like, man, I wish we had Drake on the bench. And now we had Drake on the bench, so I was like, we're fine. Luis Suárez obviously has that really impressive goal. I'm sure we'll talk about that more later when we get to awards. Santi Morales, 83rd minute. He gets his debut, by the way, so congratulations to him. He had a really nice through ball to Leo Alfonso that could have been a goal. Leo Alfonso attempts to dump it to Kramaski for an easy tap in. Kramaski's a little bit too exhausted for it. He may have been able to just take it himself and score a goal, but the Santi Morales pass to set that up, I think it's an identity of who he is. And again, congratulations to him for getting his professional debut. I mean, I don't want to minimize that. That's an incredible achievement for any player, and for him and everything, another young player, homegrown, coming through the academy, making his debut. It's just an awesome moment. And this was a game full of awesome moments, or he probably would have been, a much bigger part of this episode. And then David Ruiz also has a nice chance on goal in the 90th minute. Jordi Alba puts Ruiz through with a nice little chip over the top. Ruiz misses it just wide. I'm sure he wants that one back, but really just a ton of quality from Inter Miami in this game. They were able to sit on in the second half, or not sit on it, but kill it by letting Houston just sort of pass around the back. They kind of pulled off on the press in the second half, and they kind of just rode the game out. Substitutions, Redondo comes on for Yannick Bright in the 63rd minute. That's right after Yannick Bright almost gets the second yellow. So
yeah, that was, I think, needed.
Yep. Yeah, smart to get Yannick Bright off. Segovia and Allende, they had done their work. They come off in the 73rd minute for David Ruiz and Robert Taylor. And then in the 82nd minute, Busquets and Suárez get a few minutes off for the young kids, Leo Alfonso and Santi Morales. And again, it was Morales' debut. So, I mean, that was the game, man. A really fun, ton of quality. I just loved everything about it. And I don't have any complaints. I thought the game plan was great. I thought the substitutions were smart. I thought the way that this team played, and we should mention Jordi Alba, was really good and effective. So, I mean, it was just a really fun game to watch, fun game to rewatch.
Yeah, I have one complaint. if I can please file it wherever you'd like me to. Didn't keep a clean sheet. So close to that.
Should we
I think
talk about that
Ustari
goal for a
deserve it.
second?
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was too much of a issue. The goal itself. I think Lodero had a good shot. We just,
I
as you
want to talk about
mentioned,
it actually,
no,
'cause I have
yeah,
thoughts.
we
I
we
disagree.
we
I
can't
thought it
talk
was
about it. I think we took our foot off the gas. We started falling a little bit further back. Didn't get as close to the players. Didn't apply that press the way we were applying it throughout the game. And Redondo, I think, just let the ball pass through him. Should have been in a better position to cover that pass into Lodero. Jordi Alba, I think, should have done better on that as well. And then that shot came through. Maybe Ustari could have saved it. I don't know. I don't want to be too harsh on him, but it was just a poor goal to concede. And it felt like the players had switched off by that time. So
yeah, I think Nico Lodero, listen, he's a veteran. He's really smart. He knows how to make those runs. But that was Redondo's responsibility to either run with him or to drift into the passing lane, and he doesn't do either. That's the type of thing that we're always getting frustrated with about Redondo. So his defensive instincts to know how to just be a pain for the opposition, and he just
switches off, and that's never good to see, especially when he's come on and he should be the one who should cover those passing lanes.
Yeah. That goal I blame primarily on Redondo for allowing the man to get in that position. And then I think Drake Callender saves that goal. I don't want to make this a Drake Callender Ustadi conversation because Ustadi, his sweeping ability, his sweeping is so impressive. And that to me is the biggest difference between the two. I get he's better with his feet, but the real difference maker to me is the sweeping. And so Ustadi deserves to be the starting goalkeeper.
This game as well. He did that a couple of times, just came up and booted it out. So
to me, that was that was a moment. That was like the difference between Drake Callender and Ustadi is that Drake Callender saves that, but Ustari does other things and prevents other opportunities. But that's to me the biggest difference.
I don't want to make this a conversation about Drake Callender and Ustari.
I don't either.
Ustari's saved a few goals that have been like, okay, wow, that was a good save and stuff. But yeah, it is what it is. Maybe he could have done better there. But shame that we weren't able to see the game through. That's something maybe we need to improve upon. Just
this
make
team
sure
hates.
it hates clean sheets. We've seen
this
that
team
last
hates
time.
Clean sheets.
So whatever said and done, silly goal to concede. But one PSA for Houston fans: you guys should be more excited about Nico Lodero than Jack McGlynn. I think he was a lot more exciting.
I told you, I was done.
He was so much more exciting when he came on, and I think was more threatening for Inter Miami. Within that span of 5 minutes where he scored that goal, and then had another couple of opportunities where he had a really good cross into the box where Noah hadn't had to sweep up. I thought he did more than Jack McGinn did the entire game. So be more excited about Lodero because he could maybe be good for you this season.
Listen, Lodero might leave the team in 6 months, and Jack McGlynn might be there for the next 3 years. But I agree. I mean, in our pregame show, people were talking about how we're underhyping or underrating Jack McGlynn, and I was just like, no. I still like him. He's a nice young player, but he's the type of player that's going to help a team that's going to finish 5th or 6th in the Western Conference. Not the type of player that's going to help a team beat Inter Miami. Okay. Anything else from this game, or you want to get to? Oh, well, we got to talk about Jordi Alba because defensively, we talked about the tactics about pressing and letting them have the ball so that you could win it and get easy opportunities going the other way. And I think that was very successful offensively. They also really identified how to stop this team defensively, and that was to make sure Griffin Dorsey didn't beat you. And that's why Jordi Alba played so conservatively in this game. We didn't have a highlight reel play, at least not in the first 75, 80 minutes of this game from Jordi Alba because he was consistently dribbling a little bit and then passing it off and making sure that he doesn't get beat going the other way by Griffin Dorsey. The 1 or 2 times they were dangerous in the first 75 minutes was because Griffin Dorsey got open down that right side and was able to put in a nice cross. He's a solid player. I like him as a player. Really broke out sort of second half of 2023 and last year really solidified it. And so, they knew who the danger man was. They were willing to pull Jordi Alba out from his playmaking ability to make sure Griffin Dorsey didn't kill them with goals. It worked really well, and combine that with everything else, I thought it was an incredible game from a game planning perspective.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit underwhelmed by Jordi Alba's performance in the first watch, and you mentioned this in yesterday's reaction that Jordy's instructions were to stay back. And I rewatched the game, and you're right. He was making a conscious effort to not go beyond a certain point because he knew that Griffin Dorsey was the danger man for them. And in fact, I think every single opportunity that Houston had on our goal was created from that side of the pitch. Obviously, it's not easy when Jordi Alba's natural reactions are to go forward and get involved in the goal making, which is why I also like the fact that we had Allende on the left side and Benjamin Kramaski on the right side, because both of them were doing a similar sort of a job. We didn't have Allende coming into the center because there was nobody to overlap him. So I like the fact that Javier Mascherano can be tactically more flexible and recognize when there's a certain change that needs to be made based on the opponent. And that was really good to see, because Griffin Dorsey could have been really, really difficult to deal with. I think Ian Frey was doing a fantastic job on the other side of the pitch, just absolutely locked down Ibrahim Aliou. But on the other side, Jordi Alba also had a lot of work to do, and I thought he came out with flying colors. On the rewatch, it made a lot more sense why he didn't get involved in that final third, and for good measure. I think second half, he got a little bit more
at the end
pleasure going forward. He started going forward because we were so high up in the scoreline, but I think he had a good game. No complaints there. I wanted to give him my hair in that flew north yesterday, but I think today I changed my mind about it.
Yeah, no, I thought he was fine. So yeah, I really love this game so much, and I kind of want to get people to go watch the instant reaction, because I had like an emotional adjacent moment last night with how good this team is. I'm not going to go into it again. That's what the emotional raw
We can
reactions
clip it
are
up
for.
and put it on Twitter so that people can go watch it on Twitter.
The emotional raw reactions are for, the emotional raw reactions, and this is more analytical. But again, I was just so impressed with the team in this game. Javier Mascherano, I'm so impressed with. Like, he feels like a good coach compared to Phil Neville and Tata Martino, and certainly Javier Morales felt like bad coaches. And now, like, they felt like okay coaches. And now that I'm watching Javier Mascherano, I feel like those were bad coaches. And
I will
I'm really
say,
appreciating Mascherano.
This Inter Miami team will go through adversity of some sorts during the season, because that's just the nature of football. And that's
Maybe
when
not.
I want to, maybe not.
No,
Maybe this
I'm
is our
just kidding.
season and we're absolutely blessed. Maybe we're the Manchester City of the MLS. Who knows? Although I hate saying that. Why did I say that? But I think we're going to go through adversity at some point, whether it's self-created, whether it's external. And that's when Javi Mascherano's true coaching ability is going to shine through, and his ability to manage the squad. But so far, I do want to say I use the word preparedness, I think, in my one word answer for who Javier Mascherano is going to be as a coach, because it feels like he's prepared this team really well for every game that he's had so far. He has an understanding of how this team wants to play. And it feels like everyone knows what to do. Whether that works or whether that doesn't work, that's a completely different story. But at least he's using a prototype and a blueprint with how he wants to create this team. And you can see what he's trying to do. Last year, at this point, we never really had an idea of what Tata Martino wanted this team to do. Sometimes we were playing 3 at the back. Sometimes we were playing 4-4-2. Sometimes we were playing 4-3-3. It was almost all over the place. And that reflected in our performances because they were erratic at times. Now it feels like, okay, we're building on to something. And this is a great base to start. Someone in the chat mentioned that, I think Ash mentioned, this team has not even reached its ceiling. I agree. I think there's a lot higher that this team can go. We add a backup striker, maybe another midfielder, and this team can look completely different.
What happens when Telasco Segovia has a chance to really build some rhythm with these guys? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot
scary.
This team can do well into the season. I think we have to obviously temper our expectations a little bit. It's just the start of the season. It's a long season, so anything can happen. But the foundations are there. It's looking really exciting and interesting. I'm going to stop now. Let's get into the awards.
No, I have one more thing I want to talk about, because I saw it a little bit in the chat and it was sort of on the rundown. I kind of skipped past it. The Houston Dynamo aren't bad. Like, they're not. They're going to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. Now, the Western Conference isn't great. Like, the Eastern Conference is significantly better than the West, in my opinion. But they're going to make the playoffs. They have a good coach. They have some good players. Like, I know we've made fun of Jack McGlynn a little bit over the last 24 hours, but he's like a nice, solid young midfielder that a
He
lot
had
of
some
teams would
really
be
good
happy to
balls
have.
in yesterday from set pieces and stuff as well. And I think we just nullified his effect in the midfield. He may need a partner in that middle, but he's a decent player.
Yeah, Artur, a good player. I'm sure Ezekiel Ponce will start to get going as a striker. Griffin Dorsey is a good player. That defense is brand new, and Sviatchenko, who came off at halftime because he's coming back from an injury, and then once the game was out of reach, they didn't want to push him. He's going to be a guy that helps him out. So, and they have some young players in the back, so they will be a good team. I agree, Charlotte. Simon just said Houston's not good. Charlotte is the real test. I picked Charlotte to be the second best team in the MLS. So I agree. I agree. But I think Houston is like going to be the 10th to 14th best team in the league this year, not bottom 5 like I saw in the chat. I think that's a really solid team that has a good coach.
Inter Miami made
them
look bad. You have to put that into perspective. So it is what it is. We'll see where they get, but good positive start from Inter Miami.
Okay, now I'm ready for awards. Are you ready for awards?
I am ready for awards.
Okay, guys. On this show, we give out 6 awards after every game. A heron of the match, a heron that flew north, and 2 individual awards each. Saur, because you went first last time, I go first this time. I'm going to give out the man of the match, and I'm giving it to Telasco Segovia. You were on this before I was, but him as that number 10, phenomenal. He is so good. Always knows where to be to help relieve pressure. He knows where to make the right pass. He's got great vision. He's got the ability to make that right pass so frequently. So much of the patterns of play that were impressing Taylor Twellman in this game were sort of based around what Segovia was doing, how he was maneuvering, how he was controlling the game, how he was dictating tempo, how he knew when to speed up, how to slow down. He's incredible. I mean, I've been very high on him since the minute we got him. I think he's going to be the best signing of the year. Like I said, the best non-DP signing of the year. I think he might be the best player that comes into the MLS in 2025, or at least from the winter window. He's so good. I don't know what else to say. Phenomenal. 2 goals and was the player of the match, in my opinion.
For me, more than anything, what stands out for Segovia is his off the ball. He's just so good at positioning. He was the one responsible for making sure that we're pinning Houston in their end of the pitch when they were trying to play out for the back by forming that triangle with either Allende, Suárez, or himself, or Kremaski, Suárez, and himself. And he was also the one helping Yannick Bright in the middle, while Sergio Busquets could do whatever he wanted to do. He just finds the right pockets of space. He finds the right areas to be in, positions himself very importantly, whether defensively or offensively, both. And his IQ is really high. As you said, when he starts to build rhythm and starts to get going, he's going to get even better. But the fact that he's already started producing, that goal that he took against New York City just shows this player has confidence and a trust in his own abilities that not many 21-year-olds have. And yesterday he ran that show in the park, in the middle of the park. Absolutely ran the show. He was not afraid of who the opponents were. He wasn't afraid that, oh, this is a new team that I've joined in. I need to settle in or whatever. Nah, give me the ball. I'll do the job. That goal that he took was a difficult one, the second one, because he had a player who almost got the ball off him, basically, but he never let it, baby. He never gave it up, spun it and won it and put it in the back of the net. Basically poked it into the back of the corner. But overall, a fantastic performance from him. And I don't think it's the goals and assists from him that's going to be the important part. It's the intangibles that he does. I think he's going to be the most important player after Messi and Yannick Bright in this team. And yes, I put Yannick Bright in the same breath as Lionel Messi.
Dude, that draft we're going to do in a couple of weeks is going to be really interesting.
So hard to do, man.
There was a shout for Luis Suárez because of the stats. I thought Luis Suárez had a good game, 3 assists and a goal. But one of the assists was, I think, 99% Tadeo Allende. And the goal came after the sort of game had already finished. For me, it was Segovia's ability to control the game in the first half, was creating the offense, was creating the quality that Inter Miami was able to produce, both offensively and defensively. So for me, it wasn't just the stats; it was the performance from a minute perspective that won it for Segovia. He's so good, dude. I don't know.
And
what to say.
honestly, that number 8 for Inter Miami is blessed. We had Gomez, now we have Segovia. I think we're going to sell Segovia for more than we sold Gomez. It's going to be phenomenal once he gets going, but we'll see.
I'll be surprised actually if we sell him for more, because the thing about Gomez, he went to the Premier League and he's a Premier League player.
Yeah,
I don't know if Segovia is a Premier League style player from a physicality perspective. Like, I think he belongs in La Liga, and I don't know if like Real Betis is going to pay us 20 million for him, but he's going to have a bright future, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
we'll probably get that after the sell on for his next.
Great choice for Heron of the match. And I know Suárez had a bit of a shout for it, but I think Suárez is Suárez in the sense that he doesn't have the best of games, but he has the most important influence. So I can see why he's a shout for some people, but for me, Segovia was bar none yesterday. He was really good.
Okay, let's get to the heron that flew north. For those that are wondering what the heck this is, Florida herons do not fly north for the winter. They don't fly anywhere for the winter. So if you catch one flying north, you catch them doing the wrong thing. And that is the essence of this award, the heron that was doing the wrong thing. Saur, because I went first, it's your turn to be mean. Who gets the heron that flew north?
I hate the fact when I have to give the heron that flew the north award for a game that's so good and every player has played well.
I know.
So everything I say here on, I don't necessarily believe, and please take it with a pinch of salt. And I had to struggle to find who it's going to be. I'm going to give it to David Ruiz just because he missed that opportunity to make this game a 5-1 and a 5-star performance. I know it's harsh, but honestly, I didn't have anybody else I could give it to. Redondo, maybe for me, for partaking in that goal, but I think we bully Redondo a little bit too much in this podcast, so I don't want to give him that award too many times. And then Kromaski, I think, created that opportunity by winning the ball back for that first goal, so it was important. David Ruiz should have scored that fiver and given us that 5 goals. That's all I'm going to say. I don't have anything else to say for this.
To me, it was Redondo for the goal, but I understand that it's a hard game, and Redondo didn't play poorly. Nobody played poorly. This is a hard award to give sometimes, and it just sort of works out that way. So, David Ruiz, unfortunately, you get it this time, but no hard feelings. We know you have a lot of talent. You'll be back and scoring goals.
We say that as though he had a bad performance. He didn't. Really.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. His only mistake was missing a goal by 6 inches.
And he took that ball down really well for that goal as well. Like, it was bad. I just had to pick somebody. I didn't want to pick Santi Morales. I didn't want to pick Leo Afonso. So, yeah.
Not all heron that flew north awards are the same. And this
I'll put it this way. He was a heron that started to fly north, but then someone whistled him back, so he decided to go back south. So there you go.
Okay. Okay. Individual awards. My turn to go first, and I'm giving out the Thanos Award.
The Thanos Award. Thanos snapped his fingers, made half the world disappear, collected the Infinity Gems. This award goes to Javier Mascherano for collecting the Infinity Gems in Segovia, Allende, Bright, Noah Allen, perhaps. No, I'm going to give this to Yannick Bright.
Why do you think it's Yannick Bright?
I don't know. He looks a little bit like Thanos, doesn't he? I think he'd do a good Thanos cosplay.
It does go to Yannick Bright because he creates balance in the midfield.
Oh my God.
He creates balance as all things should be. The Thanos Award goes to Yannick Bright. Dude, he's incredible, but defensively, he rounds out this midfield. The trio we saw last night, and you were talking about it yesterday, so impressive, so perfectly balanced. Segovia, Busquets, Yannick Bright, incredible trio. Bright with this was his first game of the season from a competitive perspective. I thought he showed up. He only played 2/3 of the game, and aside from 2 questionable yellow cards, really the first yellow card was the only poor moment he had, an unnecessary challenge. He was winning balls like crazy. He's just a difference maker, and he kind of is starting to remind me of what Diego Gomez was last season in the midfield, where he just disrupts play so effectively, wins balls, and creates offense going the other way. He does it a little bit deeper, but unlike Diego Gomez, he also plays that safety net role, that anchor that can kind of destroy anything that comes his way. So he's incredible. He's a starter. I'm sorry. Like, I know you say we pick on Redondo, but like, we only pick on Redondo in comparison to Yannick Bright. This is the starter. He's the better player. And forget Redondo. Like, this applies to Kremaski, David Ruiz,
Noah Allen.
Like,
this applies to Noah Allen as well. For me, he's a starter now. Like,
okay. We'll talk about Noah Allen later.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in that 6 role.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Noah Allen's not a 6.
No, Noah Allen's not a 6. Like, he's got to be that guy. He's so good at it. And it's like, it doesn't matter the price tag. It doesn't matter like the hype. It doesn't matter what his FIFA ranking is, or his FIFA rating is. Like, he is so good. His ceiling is so high. He's a guy that's going to get sold sooner and for more money than Federico Redondo, if there's any justice in this world. And I'm sorry, I didn't even mean to bring up Redondo. Like, it's not about him. It's about how good Yannick Bright is. He deserves so many plaudits. He's so good. Monster performance last night. It's incredible, dude. It's incredible.
2 things. He goes about his business like it's a normal Saturday. It doesn't feel like he's actually struggling to understand what his role is on the team. He just does it effectively, does it brilliantly, and just goes back to the locker room, has a nice shower, and that's it. Done and dusted. Feels like no effort put in, and it's just so important to what this team needs in the middle of that park, because we really need someone to play that number 6 destroyer role. There's nobody else who can do that as effectively as Yannick Bright. Second, he makes every single player around him better. Every single player in that midfield, because nobody then has to worry about having to cover for their defenders, because he just provides that blanket. He allows the back line to work really well as well. When you're that kind of a player, I think you're undroppable. Absolutely phenomenal performance from him. And he's building his skill set. He's now having those penetrative runs, those powerful runs that you mentioned, Diego Gomez. He's starting to have those on-the-ball contributions as well, where I think someone mentioned in the chat he's not passing well. I think some of his line-breaking passes are really starting to show now and helping this team get out of pressure. He is becoming a little bit more press resistant. There were a couple of instances where I saw in that last game where he received the ball and he just turned into so much space, acres of space in front of him, where otherwise he wouldn't have done that. He takes a touch in space now and makes it easier for himself to create those forward opportunities. I think Javier Mascherano needs to realize sooner rather than later who his
I think he already does. I think he already
best
does.
11 is, and Yannick Bright is part of that best 11.
In terms of the defensive midfielder, he
absolutely,
he knows.
He knows.
And it's clear. It's obvious. Like last season, listen, they weren't competing with each other. They ended up starting together.
I think we may have lost Scotty. Sorry, did you lose me or did I lose you?
I feel like everything's fine.
Okay, sorry, my bad.
Completely derailed my train of thought. Apologies.
Yannick Bright, greatest player in the world.
Last season, him and Redondo started to play together. And I think that was Tata Martino forcing the best 11 on the field, but forcing guys out of position. There's too many good players on the field. On the roster to just not put guys at their best position. And that's what Yannick Bright needs to be. He's the starter for the big games. He has to be. And like Redondo played yesterday because Bright was in yellow card trouble. So I don't like, it's not a hot take. It's not a hot take. It's clear. It's obvious. I mean, I do feel a little special because we were absolutely the first people screaming about Yannick Bright, but he's so good, dude. I don't know.
Guys, if you're not familiar, this is the Yannick Bright fan club show. So please join us on this train because we all love Yannick Bright here. Can I give you my Saur's favorite starting 11? I don't know if Javier Mascherano is ever going to play this. I know some people would disagree with me.
Sure.
Ray Callender, Oscar Starry, it's fine. This is not the point of the conversation. Backline, you can pick whoever you want. I think Maxi Falcon, Noah Allen, Ian Frey on the right-hand side.
Are you about to tell me who your best midfield is?
No. I'm going to give you my midfield and forward line. Okay. Best midfield. Sergio Busquets, Yannick Bright, Lionel Messi. Telasco Segovia, right? Who am I missing? Tadeo Allende as my forward.
Yeah.
That's it. That's 11, right? I've got 11.
Mhm. Yeah.
There you go. That's my starting 11. You put those three in the middle together, it's over. It's game over.
It's just so balanced. It's so
It's
unbelievably
so
balanced. Like
good.
for
So good.
someone that, and listen, I love midfield play. That's my favorite thing about soccer. And to watch this, it's just so beautiful. It's so amazing. Those three together. I'm going to get emotional, and that's not what this is about. So I'm going to let you go to your first award. But Yannick Bright gets the Thanos Award because he helps create balance, as all things should be.
I have a few good awards, I think, but
there's so many players that deserve awards.
There's a lot of players that we want to talk about. I'm going to go with the Indelible Ink Award. The Indelible Ink Award.
The Indelible Ink Award.
It's like a sentence.
Apparently you missed a forward, by the way. But I'm assuming you meant Suárez, Messi on the right, and Allende on the left with Segovia, Bright, and Busquets in the midfield.
Yeah, possibly.
Just to clarify. The Indelible Ink. Indelible Ink.
For those of you who don't know, I can't count well, so sorry about that.
This is Ian Frey. Because you want him put into the starting lineup. Put it in Sharpie for all I care, because he's locked in.
I was going to say tattoo it.
So, yeah, tattoo it. Because he's locked in at right back.
Absolutely spot on. I'm not going to say anything else. That's exactly what I meant from this.
I'm glad you gave him an award, because my award was much worse for him.
Oh,
so I appreciate you giving it to him.
I'm glad. Write it in indelible ink, man. And don't rub it off, because Ian Frey deserves to be our starting right back. He just has all the qualities.
He's way better.
So good. I mentioned this yesterday. I'm going to say it again. He does this one thing where he receives the ball, and the first thing he does on that right-hand side is just take a touch into space towards an angle on his left side. And that just
away from a defender.
Kills away from the defender, and that just completely kills any press that the opposition is putting on him. He just absolutely destroys with that one move. And there's acres of space in the midfield and in front of him to just pass into. And I don't understand how opposition teams are not realizing this, because he does that like 5 times a game. So I hope they're watching his tape, and I think that's probably why he was a little bit poor against Kansas City, who actually pressed him a little bit. There's areas of improvement that he can have. There's definitely areas that he needs to work on, especially with his passing. Sometimes can be errant. But him and Kremaski were linking up in that first half really well together. He was just bombing down on that side. Kremaski popped it into him. And there was a couple of instances where he just created that opportunity with a cutback. Once or twice hit the defender. But he does that, gets in dangerous positions, creates those opportunities. I can go on a rant about Ian Frey. This is also the Ian Frey fan club, so you guys can join that as well. We have a couple running. Mistiano Pinaudo mentions it. He's my man crush. Honestly, I think Bright is a little bit above Ian Frey, but Ian Frey is a close second.
That was one of the moments between Kremaski and Ian Frey was one of the moments in the first half where Taylor Twellman was like, what is happening right now with these patterns of play?
Yeah.
And again, I mentioned this at the beginning, and I talked about it a lot last night in the instant reaction, but the fact that some of our young players have stepped up their quality to match this insane level that far outpaces anyone else in the MLS, and that's Ian Frey and Kremaski in this moment, was so impressive. I was going to give him the Frogger Award because of exactly what you're talking about. He just kind of sidesteps the car and then has oodles of space to go forward. Your award is better. I'll give you that. But I was thinking along the same lines. And then defensively, he locked down Aliyu. Listen, we understand that Aliyu is not a superstar forward, but he locked him down.
But he did that with Eric Tommy as well. His defensive play against Tommy was just as good.
No, it was even a step up in this game. Like, he was winning balls from Aliyu. Last season, we would watch Ian Frey, and there was a part of me that was like really confused, because everything about my eyes was telling me Ian Frey was clearly better. Tata Martino kept going back to Chelo Wigan, and I was thinking, like, is it the defense? And then after a while, I was like, it's not really the defense. And people in the chat and people on Twitter were like, well, Chelo's a better defender, and it's like, no, Nothing. There's nothing.
Trey is a better defender.
He's a better
hands
defender.
down.
He's a better one-on-one defender. He's bigger and take up more space when you're trying to block up. He's bigger and more physical when you're trying to play set pieces. Like defensively, he's just a much better player. And offensively, he's a world different. He's so good, man. I know that's all I'm saying this episode, it feels like, but so good.
All right, give me your next award.
Okay, I'm giving the Brighton Award.
The Brighton Award?
Yes.
Brighton reminds me of Diego Gomez, a player who's similar to Diego Gomez. You've already talked about Telasco Segovia. Noah Allen, perhaps? I don't know. The Brighton Seagulls, because you mentioned that he's part of a bird club with Maxi Falcone, so I don't know. Noah Allen. I'm going to go for Noah Allen.
Yeah, there's definitely a Greek Freak Award coming now that he's switched his allegiance for the international soccer. No, it goes to Tadeo Allende.
Oh,
we have been thinking about this all wrong. It is not that Telasco Segovia is the Diego Gomez replacement, because he's not. He is the replacement for Matías Rojas, that tricky winger that can be a 10, that can create, that can score some goals. And Tadeo Allende is the Diego Gomez replacement, the big, physical, athletic guy that will just body people, will go up high, will use his athleticism as a weapon and can stretch the field. This is the Diego Gomez replacement. Tadeo Allende, he gets a incredible goal. I mean, wonderful goal, highlight reel goal. Like I said, 4 goals in the preseason and regular season, 2 in the regular season so far, in only 3 games. He's a physical monster in a way that only Diego Gomez has been for Inter Miami. No one else on this roster competes with him from a physicality and athleticism perspective. He's a guy that you could see moving from, to the Premier League. Like, he has that type of body and physicality. I don't know how Inter Miami got this guy on loan. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. He's so good.
And honestly, someone mentioned he was in poor form before that. I mean, good for him for finding his form with Inter Miami. I had an award for him. I'm not going to use it today because I can use it for another episode, but it was everything I wanted him to be. He's just that good. You mentioned strength, just bodies people off, really strong with the ball. It's hard to take the ball off him. Also because he's silky and can really dribble well, which is 2 skills that you really would want your winger to have. He is powerful, can make those runs in behind really well. Is quick. I don't think he's super quick like Fafa Pico, but he's still quick, can find those runs in behind. And then, bloody hell, what a left foot. Not even his
he's right-footed.
Strong foot.
He's right-footed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know how ridiculous that is to hit that shot with your weak foot?
Absolutely brilliant. Does the right things, and he's really good in front of goal, man. That's one thing I wanted to see from Tadeo Allende, whether he can actually produce those goals and assists. He's got 2 goals already, 4 goals since preseason. He's hitting hot form, and he is going to come in clutch for this team when we need somebody to score goals. As of this point in time, he's a backup striker, and honestly, I don't mind if he has to play backup striker because I know he's really good in front of goals. So overall, great finisher, really strong, and perhaps the heir to Diego Gomez's Brighton throne. Who knows? As of now, I'm very impressed with him, and we've talked about this. Growing strength to strength, game to game, getting better, and contributing, most importantly. I think our forward line is so dangerous, man. It's so dangerous. It's phenomenal.
The technical ability is ridiculous. Okay, let's just go to the next award because I'm just going to talk about how great these guys are for the next 30 minutes if you let me.
I'm going to go.
Final award. Run it down for us.
I have a couple that I can give away, but I'm going to go for the Durian Award.
The Durian Award.
You know the fruit durian?
I mean, I've heard of the fruit, but I don't know anything about it, so I'm kind of lost on this one.
I can't explain it, otherwise it will give
I understand. So I'm going to guess, and maybe this is going to sound really silly, but I think probably the durian fruit tastes better the more you let it age, and that's what Luis Suárez is. It tastes good at the beginning, but then it tastes great as you let it age. I don't know. Is that right?
Your logic is very, very close. It is Luis Suarez. You had it basically spot on, but slightly reversed. It's not better as you let it age. It's a fruit that is quite ugly on the outside, terrible on the outside, smells awful, but the taste is fantastic. Just like Luis Suarez, who's terrible on the outside, shouldn't be performing or putting up the numbers that he does, and yet on the inside, he produces the best possible numbers. He had a man of the match performance yesterday, and yet he was terrible for 90 minutes, except those like 3 or 4 minutes that he had a really good game. As somebody mentioned, stinky but fantastic. Luis Suarez, do we even need to talk about him and say anything more? Because that's how he
Let's
is.
talk about the last goal. Let's talk about the last goal because we didn't really talk about it in the rundown.
Yeah.
It's just a simple pass from Busquets. The defender doesn't close down well enough. David Ruiz is making a diagonal run, and I think that he deserves a lot of credit because that distracted who was it? Ethan Bartlow, just a little bit and got him sort of flowing the other direction. But he kind of just hesitates, switches his direction, kind of jukes or crosses over. Awadesu gets space. And then because of that run from David Ruiz, he's now got a little bit of leverage on Bartlow. And then he finishes with a really classy finish. I mean, really impressive. Vintage Suarez, absolutely.
It was just exactly what he does. Body feints one way, takes the other player out, runs into the space that's in front of him. The defenders absolutely have no idea what's come their way because I think they got a little bit confused. How is Suarez doing this when he didn't do this for the last 80 minutes of the game? They were surprised that he still had that in him. And he just turned the burners on. And what a fantastic finish, by the way. Near post as well, just banged it into the top corner. And yeah, what a fantastic goal. Almost a solo effort. But I thought that was definitely, as you said, vintage Suarez. That's what he needs to do for this team, man. I don't care if he keeps dropping stinkers as long as he keeps scoring and getting on that score sheet. That's all we need. Well,
also, I think he's more effective not more effective. He's effective in a different way when Messi's not there because they're able to press higher. And that's part of the game plan. He is pressing hard. Like he works hard, even though he's not particularly athletic. You can see he's trying, and then he's getting himself into different positions.
You can't fault him for his work rate. You absolutely cannot fault him for his work rate.
And that creates chances when Inter Miami does create turnovers in a way that doesn't necessarily happen with Messi because when those two are both on the field, they kind of don't press that high as often. And so it's just a different style. Of course, that connection with Messi is
if somebody's just watched the highlights and has seen Suarez just put up 3 assists and a goal and then comes to the show and listens to us say that he has a stinker, what would they think of us? They would think
I didn't think he had a stinker.
No. I'm over exaggerating. I'm trying to play into the narrative that I set for myself.
Yeah,
I think he had a really good
fruit,
game. He had a really good game.
He had, I think, 2 or 3 moments and 2 shots in the first half that were just really poor by his standards.
Yeah.
And then he had a pass I thought was like a ball that was really.
But that's what you get from him, right? Like he does try things
he
that might not come on.
No. He usually doesn't have terrible shots.
Yeah.
And that's like that was the big concern. So
the goal that he scored.
Okay. I think we have like 16 other players to talk about. So did you have any other awards? Because we used all of mine.
I did have another award for Noah Allen. Again, I might be able to use that another time, so I'm not going to say what it was. But Noah Allen, again, what a performance, man. Just keeps maturing from game to game. It feels like he's getting better and better, and that's exactly how you want a player to progress. I think at this point he's undroppable. You can't drop him, and that's why Maxi Falcon might actually be sitting out. Aviles is probably doing him a favor by getting all these red cards and all these yellow cards. So he's like, you know what, Noah, I'll do you one favor. I'll sit this one out. You can continue to play because you're doing well. But he's undroppable right now, just as Ian Frey. I think he has to be on the score sheet, on the team sheet.
Yeah, he does. And again, I said this last night. I will briefly recap. Federico Redondo, incredibly exciting young player. Incredibly exciting. Benjamin Kramaski, incredibly exciting young player. Cello Wiegand, very good, above average MLS right back. But in this team. Robert Taylor, an above average MLS player. Drake Callender, an above average MLS player. But in this team right now, you can't get those guys in the starting 11 in a must-win game because there are better players above them. And one of those great players that has stepped up to that standard is Noah Allen. The captain award, I mean, it's not the award, the captain armband, 2 games in a row. The fact that they're searching him out.
How old is he?
21.
No,
And
he's
and
not
this
21.
is his, and he just became a starter. Like, he just became a starter this game. Like, is this when he became a locked-in starter? This preseason, maybe? Like, he wasn't even a starter last year.
It's insane. It's insane. And you know what? It's not even the fact that he's a starter or not a starter. That's up for debate. It's the growth. This time last year, he was nowhere near the first team. And now he's undroppable. He was nowhere near the first team. And you said something, right? Like, it's special. Inter Miami could put out a really good squad with Benjamin
Noah Allen is
Kramaski.
20. He's
20,
20.
yeah. With Federico Redondo, with Benjamin Kramaski, with David Ruiz, we could put out a squad that can compete. But with
David Martinez,
Yannick
Maxi Falcone, Toto
Falcone,
Aviles, Chelo Wiggins, Drake Callender, Robert Taylor.
We could put out a squad that competes. But when you have players like Ian Frey, Yannick Bright, Noah Allen, Lionel Messi, Luis Suárez, Telasco Segovia, Tadeo Allende, they just add that extra X factor in there. And that's what's really going to take this team forward in tournaments and win us those cups and those trophies that we want. It's that extra X factor. And I think last season we were caught up in a little bit of a tussle between backroom politics of the coach wanting to play his players. Now I think there's none of that, which means that all the players who perform well, who bring that X factor to the team and who uplift the team even more than it already is uplifted, I think that those are the players who are going to play, and that's going to add value to this team so much more than we can imagine. It's phenomenal. He's keeping Maxi Falcone out of the starting 11, by the way. I've come to that conclusion.
I told you, dude. Like, it's
no,
not.
You never said he's keeping. Yeah, you never said
it's not.
No,
Allen's
keeping him out.
It was never a comment on Maxi Falcone's talent. It was that there's like 4 or 5 guys. Well, we'll see about David Martinez, but clearly Gonzalo Lujan, clearly Toto Aviles, clearly Noah Allen, and Maxi Falcone. Like, there's 4 guys that are starters. And not everyone can start every game. And I don't think Maxi Falcone is like above and beyond those other 4, or sorry.
At least
3.
not just at this point. Yeah.
At this point. So, yeah. Speaking of Gonzalo Lujan, speaking of other center backs, he had a couple really nice, like, last ditch efforts where he just pulled a leg out or he got to the ball at the last second to prevent an opportunity for coming together. They actually had an opportunity that we didn't talk about early in the game, maybe 15th minute or so, where he gets his toe in at the very last second on a cross into the box that disrupts the play. I think a lot of the Houston fans wanted a penalty on that because it's so last second. It's such a just reaching that toe in, but it disrupts the whole play. And it was incredible. He had another ball later on where he disrupts a pass that could have been something with just getting his leg up and getting into the right position to make that play. So Gonzalo Lujan, really impressive game.
No, I thought he had a really good game.
He's gotten better and better every game, I think.
And he's a solid backup. If he's a backup, he's a solid backup, honestly.
I know.
Our defense has just absolutely gone to a whole different level compared to last season, man. At this point, last season, we were starting Christoph and Nico Ferrer. It wasn't even here, I think, at this point. And yeah, it wasn't great. And now our depth in defense looks fantastic. Touch wood, honestly.
I know. Ustadi, another good game.
Really solid game.
Like, he deserved a clean sheet. Like, I know I said Drake Callender would have saved that ball at the end, but I think he had a really nice game. Including that still, again, deserved a clean sheet. Sergio Busquets, dude, he's so good. I don't know if I'm going to draft first or second in our draft, but he's going to be my number 2 player behind Messi, above Suárez, above Jordi Alba, because he's been so good this season.
No, he's phenomenal.
I think we saw him as center back last year for so much. So that
we didn't see enough of the midfielder Busquets at all.
It changed our perception of him, because early in the season when he was in the midfield, he was with Julian Gressel, and he was in a midfield that wasn't really complementary to him. And then he played center back for the second half of the season. So we didn't really get to see him last year play like in a real midfield that helped him out. And now we are, and last night especially. So, and I mean, he's just so good. And he has been this entire season, preseason, everything. Jordi Alba, again, conservative, but did what he had to do. Benjamin Kramaski, happy birthday to him. He turned 20 yesterday.
He had a good game. He combined well on that right side. Yeah,
I did too. He had a really nice hold off where he received the ball, held off the defender. I think it was a 58th, 59th minute, and then sort of touched it off to Ian Frey, who got going forward. I thought that was a really nice play. Santi Morales gets his debut. Congratulations to him. We mentioned it earlier, but that is a huge moment in a young player's career. And for him, homegrown, to be the next one. And it does feel like Javier Mascherano believes this kid is going to come through and come good for Inter Miami. That's awesome to see. Leo Alfonso, I thought, had a really looked lively and had an opportunity potentially to create a goal, and he just put it a little too far for.
And got a yellow card. Nice.
Yeah, he did get that was the one late yellow card that I thought was a little immature. And then Robert Taylor, was fine. Redondo, Ruiz, we talked about. So I think this is an incredible team. Again, the guys that didn't play last night: Maxi Falcone, David Martinez, Julian Gressel, and Drake Callender. 4 guys that would start on 26 out of 30 MLS teams, maybe more.
I think the commentary mentioned this, that if Ustari is going to be our number 1 keeper and if Drake Callender is available, Inter Miami is going to get a fair few calls from some other MLS teams about him, because he's a good keeper who's being kept out of the team. And again, this is what we're talking about. Ustari has been bringing that slightly extra thing that
should we talk about this for a minute?
Sure, but I don't want to talk about it for too long because we don't know what's going to happen with Drake Callender. So I don't want to speculate, but yeah, it is what it is.
Right. The difference to me, I get Ustari is better with his feet. That to me is not the reason why he has to start right now. It's the sweeping ability. Drake Callender is a good enough athlete to do the sweeping, certainly. And he's a better shot stopper. I'm fairly confident to say he's a better shot stopper than Ustari at this point. He needs to learn from Ustari the sweeping, and it will change his career if he can learn from Ustari. I know
it's just
he's
the quickness with which he comes out, because when you're playing a high line, it's so good to have somebody who can immediately see, all right, this is going to be a dangerous ball in behind my defense. They're not going to be able to catch up. I'm already there to cover it. And it's really important, especially when you want to play a high line, which looks like for some parts of the game, we definitely do that. So that's a skill set. If Drake can manage that, I think it's going to add a lot to his game.
Well, and so that's, for me, the whole thing with Drake is I don't know if or when he's going to get his opportunity. I hope it's within her. I still think he has a higher ceiling than Ustari, but if I'm him, I'm watching Ustari's highlights and I'm talking to him why did you come out for this one? Why didn't you, really working on that in training, get with the academy kids and have them run through and have them get make those runs in behind and go out and get them and work on that, because it's the sweeping. That's the thing to me that changes everything, because you can play the high line and he protects you. And Drake Callender is physically athletic enough to do that. So I want to see Drake, when he gets his opportunity, doing that. Now, I also want to say that might be something that Javier Mascherano is telling his goalkeepers. You have to be great at this. And that might not have been a huge emphasis from Tata Martino. So we haven't seen Drake. Maybe that's something that Javier Mascherano really wants and has emphasized and that's part of why we're seeing it so much from Ustari. And maybe Drake will do that too. I don't know. But we haven't seen that historically from Drake. And so if he can build those instincts and develop that sweeping ability like Ustari, that would be the huge step in his career. Okay, Saur, I think we talked about everything. I will end with this. How in the world are you going to find out about Cavalier for Thursday night's preview?
I'm going to use this little technology that I don't know if you've heard about it. It's up and coming. It's called Google. I'm going to see what's out there and what's available about Cavalier on Google. I'm going to realize there's not much. And then I'm going to close my laptop and hope that when we get on the pregame show, we know what the hell we're talking about, because it's going to be hard. We'll do our due diligence. We'll watch the game plays if we can. I'm sure there's some stuff available out on YouTube in terms of highlights and stuff. We will caveat that the next episode in terms of the pregame show might be more Inter Miami focused than Cavalier focused. And I think the next game probably is going to give us a little bit more information of how Cavalier wants to play against Inter Miami. So the next game against Cavalier is going to be a lot easier to do a pregame show on. But next time around, I think it's going to be slightly difficult to judge exactly what kind of team we're going up against. Unless someone in the chat has an idea and knows Cavalier and watches them, please give us some information.
So 2 things, guys, after this, either in the chat or in the comments section after, if you know or you have a great resource on Cavalier, put it in the chat, because we're happy to do the research. We're happy to watch the film, but it is hard to get information on the Jamaican Premier League. Then the second thing is, tell us who had better awards. I want to start hearing who has better awards. I want to keep track of who's winning, because Saur always thinks his awards are great and mine are bad. But I
think my awards were better this time around. I've never said your awards were bad. Mine are just more creative and better.
We will leave that to the fans to decide. But we have some ideas. We've already done some research on Cavalier. It'll be interesting. They have a couple players that have been on the Jamaican national team, so like it's not a total unknown. They did play Cincinnati last year. I think that there's, we'll put together something legit, but we're gonna have to dive.
Gus in the chat has a really important point. He says they're from Jamaica. Phenomenal. That's a really good point. Very helpful.
Yeah, Cavalier assistant coach stated on an interview last week that they are better than Inter Miami. Interesting. Thank you for that, David. Yeah. Ash says Cavalier Stadium will look like there's heavy smog at ground level. That's true. That happens in every CONCACAF away game in the Caribbean. Cuz, thank you for that. They are from Jamaica. Yes, Ash says they have a few players in the national teams too. So listen, we'll figure it out and we'll put together a pregame show. That will be the next time you guys see us, and that's why I'm bringing it up. We will, we'll do an emergency podcast if something incredible happens, but if not, we'll be back for the pregame show 1 hour before kickoff on Thursday night. Until then, I hope you guys have a wonderful night, a wonderful evening, a wonderful week. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being in the chat. You guys are what makes it special. So again, thank you so much. We will see you guys next time. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this, and have a wonderful day.